Now is the time for meditation and reflection, followed by shared silence. I invite you to get comfortable in your seat. Maybe let some part of you find the solid earth beneath you. Take a deep breath. This morning's meditation is a poem by Kara Bluen. Women are making the food. Women are staying late. Women got here early. Women have just always been early risers. Women brought extra. Women are letting you use theirs. It's no problem. Women are making the lesson plan because they couldn't really teach with this one. Women are keeping the books. Women have it in a Google Doc. Women are making sure we get a photo while everyone is together. Women are emailing everyone about the reunion. Women are emailing everyone about the party. Women are figuring out how we're all going to get there. Women are checking to make sure you have a ride. Women are walking you into the stairwell when you cry. Women are listening to your idea. Women are editing your proposal. Women don't know how to write a grant, but they are figuring it out and writing a grant. Women are making sure there are enough chairs. Women are making sure everyone gets to speak. Women are doing it in their free time. Women are listening to your story. Women are sending a reminder email about the trip. Women are telling you your strengths. Women are cleaning up the mess. Women are smiling through their fear. Women are getting up and finding another seat discreetly. Women are protecting your feelings. Women know, they know, but if they don't do it, it's just not going to get done. Women have a minute, sure, sit down, they're just eating lunch. Women are repairing your soul. Women are giving you feedback on your novel. Women are setting up the space. Women are concealing their rage. Women will do this one for you, pro bono. Women are calling to see if you got the email about the trip. Women are remembering birthdays. Women understand why you're acting that way. Women can see it from your side. Women can empathize. Women have time, sure. This morning's reading comes from Michael Ian Black. I used to have this one-liner: if you want to emasculate a guy friend when you're at a restaurant, ask him everything he's going to order, and then when the waitress comes, order for him. It's funny because it shouldn't be that easy to rob a man of his masculinity, but it is. Last week, 17 people, most of them teenagers, were shot dead at a Florida school. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School now joins the ranks of Sandy Hook, Virginia Tech, Columbine, and too many other sites of American carnage. What do these shootings all have in common? Guns, yes, but also boys. Girls aren't pulling the triggers. It's boys. It's almost always boys. America's boys are broken, and it's killing us. The brokenness of the country's boys stands in contrast to its girls, who still face an abundance of obstacles, but go into the world increasingly well-equipped to take them on. To be a girl today is to be the beneficiary of decades of conversation about the complexities of womanhood, its many forms and expressions. Boys, though, have been left behind. No commensurate movement has emerged to help them navigate toward a full expression of their gender. It's no longer enough to be a man. We no longer even know what that means. Too many boys are trapped in the same suffocating, outdated model of masculinity, where manhood is measured in strength, where there is no way to be vulnerable without being emasculated, where manliness is about having power over others. They are trapped, and they don't even have the language to talk about how they feel about being trapped, because the language that exists to discuss the full range of human emotion is still viewed as too sensitive and feminine. But to even admit our terror is to be reduced, because we don't have a model of masculinity that allows for fear or grief or tenderness or the day-to-day sadness that sometimes overtakes us all. Here ends the reading. The strict parameters that Michael Ian Black is concerned about on how one is expected to assert maleness are what some call toxic masculinity. Calling it that is a way of claiming that many of the ways our culture directs men's behavior in relation to their identity as men are harmful. When we call out toxic masculinity, we're not talking about every way of expressing a male identity, but about the culture of gender essentialism that tells men and young boys that they must be dominant, aggressive, self-reliant, unemotional, and never show vulnerability or weakness. It is the parameters of a narrow gender role that also discounts the value of anyone, women, men, or gender nonconforming people who exist outside that role. Toxic masculinity degrades anything coded as non-male, feelings, beauty, intimacy, insecurity, interdependence, and on, as worthless or shameful. Now that sounds objectionable to, hopefully, all of us, and yet I'm assured that each of us has felt its creeping influence on our own behavior and thought. When I was teaching kindergarten and it was time for the children to choose the area they'd like to play in, the boys inevitably chose the block area, aided in their play there by boxes of fighting character action figures. I was frequently interrupting play that was too rough in the block area. The general norm there was build little, destroy much. The girls tended to be more diverse in their selections, picking the pretend play and dress-up area, the book corner, the arts area, puzzles, and more. Only the bravest ever joined the boys in the rough-and-tumble block zone. It was where most of the accidents happened. It was loud. It was unwelcoming. Usually, no one told these children out loud. that they needed to make those selections in their play, that genuine boys should be building and fighting, that all the sparkly, twirly, creative fun of the dress-up area was for girls only, that it was somehow less than the boys' choice. But they knew. Kids are smart. They knew, by age 5, what was expected of them. This seems like a pretty mundane example of how restrictive gender expectations affect our lives. In kindergarten play choices, mostly nobody gets hurt, or at least not too badly. There's nothing wrong with playing with blocks. They're a great learning tool. But it marks the beginning of a life of restriction for a person with a male identity. And that is a life where, inevitably, not only does that person get hurt, others likely do too. Now, toxic masculinity is not all masculinity. It's not the only way of embodying a male identity, but it is pervasive and influential on people of all genders. It is what makes it near impossible to find children's toys and clothing that do not scream the assigned gender of the child to whom they belong. It's what causes that thing that sometimes happens during extended family gatherings where women are running themselves ragged, noticing needs, food to prep, children to safeguard, messes to wipe up, dishes to scrub, while men, having been conditioned not to notice need, are obliviously enjoying themselves. Or is that just my family? It's not, right? It's what causes a man to endure shaming and career stalling if he chooses to take parental leave after a child joins his family, and consequently what often causes a woman to bear the brunt of parenting alone. Real talk, it's the reason I wrote this sermon while Disney's Frozen blared in the background and a toddler climbed all over me, because it's more acceptable in workplace culture for mothers to take personal time for a child's snow day than for fathers. Toxic masculinity is what teaches boys and men that power over another should be their highest held value, that work is about power over another, language is about power over another, religion is about power over another, sex is about power over another. It is what encourages some men not to admit their discomfort and fear when others treat business, faith, women, the earth, all like conquests in a lifelong game of power. It is what allows someone to sexually assault women, brag about it, and still be elected to public office. It is exactly what allows for a gun culture that prefers the mechanized power of semi-automatic weapons to our children's lives, because it convinces us that more power is always the solution to anything. One of the unavoidable ends of that same force of toxic masculinity and strict gender norms is the culture of harassment and sexual violence that has necessitated the Me Too movement. As Michael Ian Black noted in our reading this morning, women, many of us anyway, benefit from the decades of work that feminists have done in exploring different ways of being women, different ways of thinking about gender in general. And so, naturally, women and non-cisgendered men are leading the charge on this movement. And it's bringing up some stuff for some men. The Me Too movement has awakened some of the most toxically masculine reactions we've seen in years. It has uncovered a dormant longing in men trying hard to fit in the tiny box that's demanded of them for a time when the task of being that kind of man was easier for men, that is. Self-reliance being close to impossible in late-stage capitalism, sexual harassment being no longer acceptable, with all the manliest hard labor jobs becoming obsolete, it's hard out there for a man. For a man who feels beholden to that model of toxic masculinity, it is. And the frantic, desperate grabs for some semblance of power over come out as violence, a resurgence of white supremacy, a barely controlled rage that rumbles beneath the foundations of our society. This isn't just kindergarten stuff. and yet it's the very same stuff. But still, women are saying, after lifetimes, enough is enough, because it is hurting us. It is killing us, quite literally. Do you know what the leading cause of death is for pregnant women in America? Violence by a male partner. There are bigger reasons still why toxic masculinity is so dangerous to perpetuate. Male identity, more than any other element, is the most common trait among those who perpetuate deadly violence. 94% of violent crimes are committed by men. And as Black pointed out, nearly every single perpetrator of a mass shooting is a cisgendered male. Women are shouting, "This toxic style of masculinity is hurting us." But that's not the whole story. It's hurting you. It's not just me too, it's you too. Now, a point of clarity and hope. Most men are not violent. While whoppingly huge percentages of mass shooters, domestic abusers, criminals in general are male, most men are not out there harming people. In spite of everything working against it, the hopeful, heart-filling truth is that in most men, goodness wins out. But we really don't have to make it so freaking hard for them. Toxic masculinity, when it's allowed to govern our thinking and behavior, harms women. It harms men. It harms every person on the whole rainbow spectrum of gender. Its fueling of the need for power is destroying the earth we walk on. And tearing it down from within yourself, that isn't easy. Maybe it even feels a little threatening, like you're coming apart at the seams. But I have to tell you, dismantling this is not a threat to men. Sorry to the mythical man-hating feminists out there, we are not talking about male disempowerment today. Actually, I think this work of dismantling toxic masculinity is male empowerment. Empowering in a new way, in a way that does not entail power over another. It asks men to be responsible. It invites men to be all that they might have within them. It encourages their breaking out of the restrictive box that messed up gender expectations put them in. And it's worth it. Here's something I can do with regularity and without shame. Hold hands with my closest friends. Lean on their shoulder while we watch a movie on the couch. Braid their hair. Massage their swollen feet when they're pregnant and tired. I tell them my deepest feelings, my darkest fears. I have the gift of intimacy with many people beyond my primary partner, because I'm not held to a standard of masculinity that says vulnerability is a sin. Here's a secret though, none of us are. But it really feels that way sometimes, doesn't it? It looks to me like such hard work to perform masculinity in the ways that our culture demands. I think about gazing longingly at the beautiful items in the dress-up bin as a child, thinking it a betrayal of my identity to choose them, and I feel so disappointed. I think about trying to maintain a demeanor of unwavering self-reliance and toughness, and I feel exhausted. I think about a life of solitude and loneliness where my human body is never touched by other human bodies, and I feel heartbroken. The good news of this morning is that we can stop, and we won't even be the first people to do it. You too can let go of toxic masculinity. We all can, if we want. I'll end with a story of hope. Journalist Hannah Rosen tells a story of a group of oil rig workers who were entrenched in a macho, tough guy culture of toxic masculinity, choosing to break out of that restrictive box together. These were men working in an extremely high-risk, accident-prone environment, and their work norm was to never admit weakness or show vulnerability to one another. I imagine it functioning like the grown-up version of the kindergarten block corner. When Shell, their employer, embarked on plans to open up a new offshore rig in 1997, one man, Rick Fox, the asset leader for the project, decided they needed to make some changes to improve worker safety. Rates of accident, injury, and even death to workers were abysmal on other rigs, and Rick was determined to make a change. But instead of focusing all of his energy on equipment updates and protocol regulations, he made an even bigger shift. Over the year and a half that the rig was under construction, Rick called in hundreds of workers to leadership workshops and retreats where they did the incredibly hard work of opening up. The program was designed to help them open up about their personal lives, their families, their feelings, their fears and insecurities. They built what men had never had in rig culture, and sometimes had never had anywhere in their lives: intimacy. And you know what? It worked. Not only were they moved and changed personally by the effort, the accident rate on the new rig went down by 84%. When men could admit to one another that they weren't sure how to perform a certain task, when they could say they felt scared about the outcome of something, when they could be vulnerable together, everyone was safer. And this is a formula that translates to all our lives. We can do that too. Any of us can resolve to be mindful as to when toxic masculinity is directing our behavior, and humble enough to listen to others less entrenched in it, who might have a clearer view. And then we can refuse to let it restrict us, to box us in and make us smaller. Because the biggest and most damaging crime of toxic masculinity is that it doesn't allow men to be their whole selves. That's what's at the core of this. And if we can work out ways to deconstruct its walls around our hearts, we get to show up with one another as whole, authentic, vulnerable people. We're able to let others witness those soft and tender places in us, and we're able to notice and love those places in others. May it be so. As we enter into the spiritual practice of generosity during this morning's offering, we have a testimony offered by Kelly Smith.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelly Smith, and I've been a member at Albany UU for about a year now. I just want to share a little bit with you about what Albany UU has given to me and my partner, Zach. When Zach and I moved to Albany, we were in search of a spiritual home, and we looked at a lot of different congregations in the capital region. We knew we found what we were looking for when we came to Albany UU. As two Midwesterners with literally no connections to anyone in the capital region, it was scary to try and build a community. But we found so much comfort in coming here on a weekly basis, seeing the same faces, having people reach out to us and ask us how my job search was going or how we were settling into our new apartment. It suddenly felt like Albany was a place that we could see ourselves maybe a little bit longer than we expected before. Not only were we feeling like we were connecting to the larger community here at Albany UU, but we were forming stronger connections with each other as a couple. The Sunday services were getting us to talk about topics that we hadn't talked about prior, and that was something really rich that we've gained through Albany UU. So I just want to share with you a couple reasons about why I give to Albany UU and encourage you to do the same. One of the major reasons why I give to Albany UU is that it nurtures my spirit and my quest for meaning. And that happens through a couple different avenues. One is through participation in Meaning Matters, where we've met some wonderful people, and it's really expanded my sense of what's out there in the world, and also an evaluation of myself and my daily routines. I've really enjoyed committee work through Albany UU, as has Zach. And also, Sunday service continues to provide great opportunities for questioning my own beliefs and really expanding my sense of what's possible. I am particularly proud today to be here with Eileen talking about toxic masculinity, a topic that many of us have grappled with our whole lives. Another reason why I give is the connection to wonderful people that I've developed since becoming a member at Albany UU. Whether it's the new Albany UU members that we've celebrated big life moments with, a great member of the Albany UU community who drops bread in our mailbox, or the hugs and smiles that we receive when running into members at various concerts in the Capital Region. Feeling that community has meant the world to me. I also love the congregation's commitment to social justice. When my mom came to visit Albany UU, there was a social justice themed sermon, and she looked at me and went, "Wow, these people are thoughtful." And that to me summed it up. Finally, one of the major reasons why I give is that Albany UU really makes me feel like I better understand our interconnectedness as people. Especially with each joy and sorrow shared, I can really see how we experience life's challenges and successes together. And that makes me not only feel more connected to you, but people I encounter outside of this congregation. So it's with great joy that I give every month to Albany UU and encourage you to do the same.
I invite you to join hands with your neighbors, checking for consent with them first. Maybe they'd rather touch shoulders or not be touched at all. May we walk out of this space softer than before. May we feel the heavy walls that surround our hearts start to crumble, and the threads of connection between us grow stronger. May we be us together, hurting but whole. The service is ended, but in honor of women speaking truth in love and all of us being open, vulnerable, whole, authentic selves, I invite you to a 4-minute dance party if you'd like to stay.